Tuesday, April 2nd. Tuesday, April 2nd, man.
April 2nd.
It is the second day of April, and
Time.
it is 2024, and it is time.
What time is it? You got to get the time in there.
SEC Sidelines. It is 7:59 a.m. Central. Yeah. Oh, the rooster crowed a long time ago. Well, I used to wake the morning before the rooster crowed.
Don't know
Take my money to a man named Curtis Lowe. That's one of the greatest songs Leonard Skinner ever wrote. And anybody from Jacksonville, Florida, that was lucky enough to grow up at the time that those guys were doing their thing in the Hell House with their PE coach, Leonard Skinner, that they did not like, and you were lucky. All right. We've got Mitch Davis, MitchDavisShow.com, going to join us here in the first segment. Never one to hold back an opinion. We're all about free speech, no censorship here. First Amendment is ardently and fervently revered. Yancey Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline, will be on with us right after Mitch, and Rodney Orr, Tighter Insider. And as always, the discussion will touch at some point on everybody in the SEC. That's what we do. That's what we're here for.
Lots of football the next couple of weeks. That's
yeah,
for sure.
I mean, spring practice is underway. SEC Sports Network and Sidelines U. Okay, smash the subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner. Tell your friends, your neighbors. Get the town crier up there. SEC Sidelines, Sports Network, and SECU. Brendan, if they want to go to our website, they just go to sidelines.live.
Yeah. You can check out our sponsors there, and you can see that stuff. But, like this, go ahead and subscribe to the show on YouTube. And if you're watching on Facebook, just, follow or like the page, and you'll get notifications there as well. And, if you don't get to the live show, you always can catch us on demand. So Mitch Davis
at your leisure
in the green room at his leisure. He's got a hat on. I'm going to see he's got there's something on his hat. I think he's got something to say today.
Oh yeah. Mitch always does. All right, get pen and paper handy. Storms are coming through throughout the South. It's a great time to follow us live or later, but we appreciate you for doing it. Get out to the vitamin shop, Olive Branch in Oxford, Mississippi today. Get that spring workout started. Get you a great workout at Rumble Boxing Gym. Get some Clay Smoked Tuna. Follow them everywhere, claysmoketuna.com. Great food. We'll be right back. Here we come.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Mitch, welcome to SEC Sidelines Sports Network. And
it's the Mitch Davis song.
Yeah, and it's the Mitch Davis song. It's like the old talk shows that they would bring the guests on, with some Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass or something like that.
That's exactly what this song is, actually.
Hey, Mitch, along the way, go play on YouTube tonight. Just go. You want to hear some cool music? Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass. I mean, just look at it. He's looking at me like, what the? Your dad will know about them. Your dad. I mean, and my parents had every album that they made in the old console, Mitch. It was this big thing that you had with a record player, an 8-track player, and it was AM, FM radio, and these big speakers. I bought one up in Hardy, Arkansas 3 years ago at an antique store for $50, and it weighed about 150 pounds. It's big, but it's got an 8-track player in it and a record player. Mitch, tell me music doesn't sound better when it's on vinyl. If you don't think it does, you hadn't listened to enough vinyl. Go get your parents' record collection and crank it up. How are you?
I'm good. So actually, just a funny story about the vinyl thing. My wife used to have a vinyl player before it broke. She had an old-fashioned one. And that was actually where we picked out our first dance song 5 or 6 years before we actually got married. We're
That's
kind
cool.
of on a year of marriage here in a week, which doesn't even seem possible. So really excited. We're going over to Huntsville, Alabama. So if anybody's got any advice on or recommendations on restaurants and places to eat and what to do.
There's a great Gator Club in Huntsville. I'm sure you'll be
really?
welcome. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure you'll be welcome with open arms there. Actually, they're a very nice group. Probably one of the nicest group of Gators ever. They have a very small Gator Club up in Huntsville. But we visited there several years ago. It couldn't have been the nicest group of people. Truly was.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But guys, I'm doing well. Disappointed the LSU lost last night. Caitlin Clark's a hell of a ball player. I mean, they did everything they could to stop her, but I mean, when the girl's going to drop 40 points, there's really not much you can do to stop her. I know a lot of people were saying, why didn't they put Flau'jae on her? Why didn't they, take Haley off of her sooner? But I mean, the girl was going to get 40 no matter who you put on her. So I mean, it's just kind of like, would you pick your poison? Would you rather have Flau'jae foul out early in the second half, or would you rather have her foul out late in the second half? So that's kind of what Kim Mulkey was thinking. Other than that, I'm doing good. Kind of a little nervous about the storms coming in, but we're ready to rock and roll. So we'll see what happens.
You guys got storms, huh? You gotta have tornadoes.
Yeah, so we actually down here where I live in Mississippi is considered Tornado Alley. So I am not a fan of storms. I am definitely afraid of bad storms. I got that from my grandfather. God rest his soul. Every time there'd be a storm come through Memphis, we would always go down into his cellar. When they built their house, he built a big old storm cellar up on the hill and go deep down and there'd be snakes and spotters and when we would take, I can tell y'all, man,
we got some bad. I see where it's all coming from now. I'm seeing your childhood trauma, Mitch. Come in.
And let me tell you, look at this morning. I'm at the farm this day before I'm going back to Memphis right after the show. It is storming. Now I can see. It was so dark here a little while ago. You couldn't see. And we've got the hot spot up in the window drawing in power. But Mitch, yeah, you're right. This is Tornado Alley. Between Little Rock and Memphis is some of the most violent weather. And in the winter, we get 5-6 inches of snow. We get an inch of ice. We see it all. And
we've had Christmases where it's like 90 degrees. I remember.
2 years ago.
Yeah, 2 years ago it was like 85, 90 degrees on Christmas Day.
Yep.
And then 2 weeks later, it's snowing a foot. So that's just the South for it. It is,
and that's kind of like life in the SEC. Now, and by the way, I don't like seeing. I mean, when I watch basketball, I love to see a pure form of the game.
Yeah. And
what you're seeing with Iowa and LSU, man, Kim Mulkey's an awesome coach. I'm a huge fan of hers, and I'll call it a 2 year. If it takes you 2 years to put a story together, and after a while, it just becomes, it's like there's nothing there. You're just trying to throw spit against the wall and hope it sticks. I love her competitiveness.
I've been around her. Guys.
I don't know her.
I've covered her several times and interviewed her and all that. She really isn't that bad of a person. I mean, really, truthfully, she is just I hope I can say this. She is just a badass woman. I mean, she is. She really, truthfully, is a badass. She is. Yeah. When you talk to her and you're in that interview room or you're interviewing on a podcast or a radio show, she shoots you straight. And people are pissed off that the team left the court during the national anthem. LSU, I've covered them twice this year at Mississippi State and at Ole Miss, and covered them several times last year at Mississippi State and Ole Miss and various other places. They leave the court with about 15 minutes to go on the clock. At about 12 to 13 minutes is when they do the national anthem. They leave the court just to get a final kind of rest period, kind of last little talk with the coaching staff. So all this uproar about LSU leaving the court for the national anthem is bullshit. I mean, guys, I'm going off on a tangent, but it really is. I mean, it is. I've seen so much hatred spewed towards Angel Reese and Haley Van Lith and Flau'jae and Kim Mulkey and the whole entire team. And guys, I'll be honest with you, I've gotten tired of it because I have been around Kim Mulkey. I've interviewed her multiple times the last 3 years that she's been at LSU. She has been nothing. I'm an independent journalist with no narrative whatsoever. She doesn't have to talk to me, guys. Every time I'm around her, she's super kind to me. She was kind to my mom when we went to the Ole Miss game. I took my mom to the Ole Miss LSU women's basketball game. And she took a picture with my mom and talked to my mom and, hey, how great your son is. We really appreciate what he does, not only for men's basketball, but also for women's basketball as well. So Kim Mulkey is a good person. And hats off to Caitlin Clark. That she is a hell of a ball player. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, and look, the people that I know at LSU that cover LSU closely, and also I believe in when someone says to me, "I'll be honest with you," I always love to mess with them and say, "So you're lying to me the rest of the time?" I'm kidding, but I love transparency, brutal honesty. Client asked me, should we put money here or there? If I don't think they should, no, hell no. Okay, now, LSU, I haven't heard anybody say anything, but they love Kim Mulkey. And look, it's easy for some journalist out there on the West Coast, East Coast, or anywhere in between.
South Carolina grad.
Yeah, trying to put a hit piece out. Yeah. And when you spend years trying to, look, it's a long story for what? I mean, she's a competitive, fiery woman, and I don't like to see trash talk, in men's basketball or women's basketball. So let's get to the facts. Caitlin Clark talking about just a badass basketball player. 41 points last night. They beat LSU. Now, golly, what a Final Four. That's going to be tough. South Carolina's there at 36 or 37-0. Don't forget about them. And they had to start over with 5 brand new players. So here we go. Now, got to ask your thoughts on the men. Purdue going to be playing this week. It's going to be, NC State. Zach Edey, is he the most unlikable guy? I don't know. He's got this inferiority complex, just this woe is me, waiting for the other shoe to drop. Why is everybody always picking on me? Grow up, which he's done a great job of at 7'4", but there's like a halo or a bubble around him. If anybody gets near him and they were wearing a Tennessee jersey, forget about it. NC State, is that the best story? And then we'll get to UConn and Alabama after that.
Without question. I love this matchup. A lot of people are not giving NC State the chance, man. I can't wait to see DJ Burns. He might foul out. He might beat the crap out of Zach Edey, but it's going to be a hell of a matchup. I cannot wait to watch my guy DJ Burns go toe-to-toe. I mean, DJ Burns, yes, he's a big guy, but he plays with such control. And really, truthfully, that NC State team, man, I've enjoyed watching them from afar and kind of watching the Twitter reactions because they're a fun little team. I mean, just 3-4 weeks ago, they were I think one of the worst teams in the ACC. And now that now that they're getting the NCAA tournament, none of that crap matters. And they've won 9 straight, including the ACC tournament. This team is fully capable to beat Purdue. That matchup down low between Zach Edey and DJ Burns is going to be phenomenal. You got the sheer size of what Zach Edey is, and then you've got the bulk of DJ Burns. So it's going to be a very interesting matchup. I'm looking forward to it. A lot's going to depend on how the officials officiate this game. And also, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but there have been a lot of comments about the way that the balls are inflated. A lot of people are saying they're overly inflated. Like if you go back and watch some of these games, or if you notice this weekend, there's a lot more long ball rebounds. A lot, like when it hits the glass, there is a loud thud instead of just a smooth, hit the glass. And when a basketball bounces, I know you guys know this, but it's supposed to kind of indent. These are just going straight up and down. And we've seen a lot of turnovers. We saw Tennessee commit some turnovers. Zakiya Ziegler never makes these kind of turnovers. And he was losing the ball, bringing up the ball up the court because they have overinflated these balls. I mean, I know y'all probably saw it in the women's tournament there in Portland. They messed up the three-point line. One was 9 inches longer than the other side of the court, which I don't know how that happens. I was at the Memphis Regional last weekend. there are a lot of things the NCAA is doing right now that it really truthfully does not make any sense.
Mitch, let me know if you can tell me whose fight song this is. You ready? You ever heard this? Can you hear it?
I can. Is that NC State?
Yep.
It is NC State.
There you go. See?
Yeah.
I love it. And they've got one, too, that says, go to hell, Carolina. Talking about North Carolina. Now, I was talking yesterday with Tommy Kane, our Wolfpack man, who was a manager there and a walk-on and got to play. It was like the Coca-Cola commercial when Les Robinson was coaching. Jim Valvano was, in the near the end of his life, and he said, "Hey, Kane." He threw him a jersey at the end of practice and said, "You're playing tomorrow. We're short a man." And he was there when they played Duke the next day. He played, got to be on the court, and that's when Jim Valvano walked out there, could barely walk, and gave a fiery speech. And here it is, 41 years later. That's an unbelievable story. And I listened to the NC State Basketball Network, listening to that game against Duke Sunday afternoon. And they said, and when they win, they go, "You can paint the bell tower red tonight." And that's a big thing that they have over there. But awesome. DJ Burns, DJ Burns, he was at Tennessee, Winthrop. He's a larger, taller version of Charles Barkley is what he is. That's what I think he is.
Yeah, that's a great analysis. And, nobody's giving him a chance, man. I'm not going to bet against him. I'm not going to predict them to win exactly outright, but I wouldn't bet against this Wolfpack, man. They've won 9 straight. They're playing with house money coming into this Purdue matchup on Saturday. And then on the other side, you've got UConn and Alabama. Everybody wants to talk about how great UConn is and they are. They're one of the best teams in college basketball, and they look reminiscent of the 2012 Kentucky Wildcats national championship team. However, don't count Alabama out. Do not count this Alabama team out. Don't count Nate Oates out. Don't count what they've been able to accomplish over this NCAA tournament. I think I came on this show. I don't know. I'm losing track of days now, but one of the shows I go on one of my podcasts or something, I said that this is the most complete Alabama basketball team, and that was before the SEC tournament. Before I'd seen him play in Oxford, I'd seen him play in Starfall. So this is the most complete Alabama basketball team that Nate Oates has ever had during his tenure there at Alabama. And look at them now. They're in the Final Four. They're playing UConn. It's a David versus Goliath, but it only took one stone to kill Goliath. So we'll see what happens. Pride always comes before the fall. We're here, and I love Dan Hurley. I love what he's been able to accomplish at UConn, but he's getting cocky, man. All those UConn fans are basically saying, hey, this is us to, this is ours to lose, and we're the best team in college basketball, yada, yada, yada. Alabama's in a good position right now coming into this matchup.
Well, you think about Mark Sears out of Muscle Shoals, home of the Swampers. Great song, Sweet Home Alabama. In Birmingham, they love the governor. And the Swampers were in Muscle Shoals. That's the Quad Cities. Muscle Shoals, Sheffield, Tuscumbia, and Florence, okay? Not to be confused with the Quad Cities of Davenport, Bettendorf, Rock Island, and Moline on the Illinois-Iowa border along the Mississippi River. But someone said, is Mitch familiar with the Joe Green Coke commercial? Maybe he's not, but he will be watching it as part of his homework assignment tonight.
Yes.
Look, I'm getting bubbles on my screen right now from Ray Mooring, one of my fraternity brothers from Auburn, lives over in Huntsville, has a successful insurance practice over there. And I said, Mitch Davis is coming to Huntsville. And he said, he's looking for great places to eat, things to do. What do you think? And he said, breakfast. He said, lunch or dinner. I said, breakfast too, because you got to eat 3 meals a day. So Ray's going to put together a list for you. May get them on here before the show's over. But you got to go to the Huntsville Space and Rocket Museum.
Yes.
At Redstone Arsenal. That is cool. Now, there is one man's name that stands above all others in Huntsville. And he didn't come here till 1945, 1946. Werner von Braun.
Yeah.
you're going to see Werner von Braun's name everywhere. Huntsville is kind of like Memphis in a sort of a way, but with mountains. Montesano, you got the Tennessee River Valley, Cottontown.
Yeah.
But I always say this about Huntsville, Alabama. The smartest people in Alabama, because I had a bunch of fraternity brothers from Huntsville. You literally do have a lot of rocket scientists from there. Great engineers, like my friend Paul Peoples and his engineer Joe McGinty with chatterduck.com. You're going to be hearing a lot about that product in the future, but you're going to love Huntsville. It's clean. It's an awesome city, and it's probably the most cosmopolitan city in Alabama because you got people from all over the place because of the space program.
I'm excited, man. My wife and I were looking forward to it. We wanted to go somewhere that's within driving distance and somewhere that we could possibly take the golden retriever. And everywhere we looked and everybody we asked, go to Huntsville. They have, she's big into the arts and craft scenes. So we're going to go do some art tours. And I think they got several art museums and stuff like that. So we'll do that. And I'm going to stop by and get me a Huntsville Trash Panda hat. I love the Trash Panda mascot. I love the raccoons. Yeah. So going to get me a Trash Panda hat. So big baseball guy, guys. And, what's so funny is, yes, there's still basketball going on, but I've kind of transitioned over into college baseball right now. And, SEC is so stupid good. I mean, you got Kentucky, who just left Oxford with a sweep of the Ole Miss Rebels. And now Ole Miss fans are starting to think, is this the end of Mike Bianco? Is this kind of the start of the end for Mike Bianco? And he's been there for 22 seasons, 23 seasons, and he's won a national championship. He's won the SEC tournament several times, won the SEC regular season, but he has a losing record against Mississippi State over the last 10 years. He has only one national championship. He's only gotten to Omaha twice in the last 10 years. So there is a little bit of anxiety here in Oxford, kind of talking about the baseball program, and same with Mississippi State, because Mississippi State, they were so close to beating Florida this weekend, and they were so close. I mean, Friday night, you look at what happened. They had coaching malpractice, leaving pitchers in way too long in the ninth inning, and Florida walking it off. Saturday, they absolutely embarrassed Florida. And then Sunday rolls around, and you got a 2-run lead heading to the bottom half of the ninth inning. And again, another coaching malpractice. Florida ends up winning the series, and Mississippi State goes home empty-handed. So it's going to be an interesting.
I felt really bad about that, Mitch.
Well, I was going to say, Brandon, you're really happy, but
look, it's just so early for me to be excited about this.
It is. You got
to pump the brakes, dude. All you journalists, people, you love baseball. I mean, you got to talk about opening day. It doesn't matter to the rest of us.
I stayed up till last night till midnight watching the Cardinals. They were playing the Padres.
I am aware that you're all purists, and you probably were, keeping score with your whole thing there. And I get it. My dad is one of them. He watches all the race. I mean, look, I get it. For me, I just got to get past March Madness, and then look. I don't know. It's spring football right now. That's where I'm at. Okay, it's spring football. All right, we just had Gators just finished off their first spring practice. Now we're less than 2 weeks out from having our orange and blue game. That's where my mind's at, and then I'll get to baseball.
Here's my scorebook. This is the 2024 season. So when I'm watching at home, last night I watched the Cardinals.
I know.
I stayed up till literally midnight watching the Cardinals play the Padres. And I was like, why am I doing this? My wife went to bed, the dog's asleep with me. I fixed me a bowl of ice cream. And to me, it's mindless. It's relaxing. I don't know.
Baseball is. It's the best sport to attend in person. Hey, a couple other things about Huntsville. Now, one of my mentors throughout life, Philip A. Thompson, attorney in Auburn, my pledge trainer in college from Huntsville, Alabama. By the way, it's the watercress capital of the world. Mark Russell is there with the Huntsville Sports Authority. Getting a lot of people texting me. I get a lot of Huntsville friends. And here's one of them from one of our viewers down in Fort Lauderdale. He says, you better mention Philip A. Thompson. Great attorney. I love the guy. He he was the one who told us every morning at 5:30 when we were running in the morning, always voluntarily before we ate frat cakes on Wednesdays, and he would say, "You're only as strong as your weakest link." And one of you screws up, the whole 50 plus are going to be doing push-ups or doing whatever they tell you to do to get over the hump. But love that guy.
Where are these texters, Rob, that you have? Why are they not on our chat?
they don't
understand why you have this active text chat, and then we have this whole chat room.
I know, but you got to remember there are people that are. I think they're on their phone driving.
Yes,
maybe or something like that. It's just, and they do that rather than pull over. And when I'm on the road,
stop enabling them. It's like Alan.
I know.
You have to stop responding to them. And
and let me say this:
chat room. We got somebody who says prisoners should have to watch MLB this time of year. Guys, MLB, like I'm telling y'all, like
that's Shoney, by the way, in Valdosta, Georgia.
Okay,
Titletown, USA.
I love it. I don't know how to even describe. Like, I get so excited for opening day for the Cardinals, and I have no reason to because we're terrible. But to me, it is the best way how I can describe it is a bridge because, my grandfather passed in December. Every opening day, we would spend that opening day together either in St. Louis or watching the Cardinals together. So now that he's gone, like last night, I kind of felt like that connection. I had fixed me a bowl of ice cream, and it was relaxing. And I'm going Saturday to Duty Noble to watch Mississippi State play Georgia. And in 2 weeks after I get back from Huntsville, going back down there for Super Bulldog weekend for the spring game, softball and baseball plays. I think Auburn, is who they play. So baseball to me is just a mindless. I can sit there and I can have it on the background. I don't have to watch every play, and I can scroll TikTok while I'm watching baseball. So that's kind of what I like to do.
So baseball's like hockey. I'll go to the game. I have fun at the game. The game, no question, going to the ballpark, the whole experience. I love that stuff. For me, it's hard to ingest hockey, baseball, like just watching on TV. Because
you're right.
I just loses it for me.
Even my wife Audrey says hockey is the funnest sport.
It's the best to go to.
Yeah. And I agree with you. All right, Ray Mooring has come through. I knew it. I love Raymond.
Yes.
These are all downtown. I just texted them to you. We're going to give Huntsville a little publicity. Today's town of the day. We're going to start a new tradition. I do that from time to time. Huntsville, Alabama, and Madison County. These are all downtown. The Standard for breakfast, lunch and dinner. Domain South, lunch and dinner. Commerce Kitchen, lunch and dinner. Let me look at this. Del Chico, new Tex-Mex is great. Furniture Factory is a sports bar, but has really good food. Wes Neighbors, former Alabama player, and his father, Billy Neighbors, played on the national championship team at Alabama in 1961, does his show there. He can call if you need more. So I just sent you the text.
I appreciate that.
Hey, look, I love our audience. Ray Mooring. This is awesome. I mean, there's just a lot of that's an awesome city. But anytime we mention a town on this show, it's cool to find out all the personal stories. But y'all are both right. Nothing better to attend than a baseball game, laid out there, feet stretched out in the outfield, drinking cold beer, eating slaw dogs. You can't beat it. In a hockey game, you're right. To attend a hockey game, anybody will tell you it's like being 20 feet from the stage at your favorite concert. Fair?
Yeah. And, Brendan,
I just like to watch them fight. Drop the gloves, jersey that bitch. Come on. No, I did NHL. I worked in NHL for 8 seasons. Oh my God. 8 seasons. I did 82 games basket for NBA, 82 games in NHL, home and away, doing studio support. I covered the Colorado Avalanche for years and years, and it's just so hard to TV's tried over the years, like the laser puck and all these other, and it's really hard to put that on TV because you lose them in the corners, and it's tough to switch around because it's happening so fast. So a director has a hard time getting to the spot beforehand. So, but it's Yeah, I love going to those games. They're a lot of fun. Well, hey, we got Yancey Porter. Do you want to bring him in?
Oh, well, Mitch has got to tag out. He said he's got to get to work. Mitchie. Put on his cape and be super banker. Right. Mitch, let me tell you something. Keep firing those rounds, okay? Say what you think. Back it up with facts. We need more Mitch Davis's true grit journalism. Ask questions. And you know what? If you don't know something, you don't know. That's why you ask questions. But
just
love having you
babies,
on here.
Would you?
Yeah. Guys, and look, you have fun in Huntsville. We want to report a book. When are you going? This week?
Next weekend. So next weekend's my anniversary. So next weekend we're leaving.
We're going to need a book report
Sunday.
I expect some video from you.
A book report too. Okay.
Absolutely, guys. I really appreciate y'all having me on. And Brendan, I'm going to be down in your neck of the woods in about 3 or 4 months. And
no way.
Anna Marie Island.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to Anna Marie Island, and then I'm going to go see a Tampa Bay game, and go see my boy Jake Mangrum. So
maybe I'll meet you down at see some Rays.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love more. The whole family's coming, so we're going to have a great time, and we'll need some
drive through Ocala to get there. Got to drive through Ocala.
Yeah, we might have to stop by and see him.
Marion County. Marion County, horse capital of the world. By the way,
absolutely.
Horse capital of the world.
But guys, I really appreciate it. Y'all stay safe today in Hell State. Y'all have a great day. All right.
All right. Thanks.
All right.
Mitch.
Take care, Mitch. Thanks so much. Yancey Porter. You can catch him Monday nights, 6 o'clock in the p.m. That's in the evening for folks south of Memphis. Yes, sir. Anyway, 6 p.m. Monday nights, Rebel Yell Hotline. Also, Super Talk Mississippi, 6 p.m. in Memphis on Sports 56 WHBQ. Chuck Rounsville, Harry Harrison, Gary Darby, Gordon Ford. They've got an awesome crew. Wish they gave them more time. It'd be great if they did it 5 nights a week. I know Yancey would love that. I mean, not that he doesn't have enough going on. Yancey, it is a great time of year. Got baseball going on. Of course, Kentucky gets a sweep over Ole Miss. What in the world is going on with Ole Miss baseball? Spring practice. Buddy Martin asked me this last night when I was on his show. I love it. He brings me on Monday nights, and Franz Beard and I were talking. He said, what about the SEC? What are you hearing? And I said, the school that is just jumps out at you for what they're doing in football, the talent they're bringing in on the defensive line is Ole Miss. Question is, how are they going to handle the pressure now from their fans and everybody else? You got to win every game. You got to win. They'll figure it out. Lane Kiffin wasn't born yesterday. Don't you feel good about what's going on, though, in Oxford? Yancey.
Tune in, Yancey. Usually take it sometimes.
Yeah. Are we good now? Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, I think it gives you a little wiggle room with there being a 12-team playoff. You don't have that pressure.
Correct.
Where you have to win every single game. But you lose one, you're fine. You lose two, and things can get shaky. But there'll be high expectations this year. It's playoffs or bust, and nothing else will be acceptable by the fans, by the players, or by the coaches. All three. So this is, I don't think I've ever covered Ole Miss where it was playoffs or bust, national championships, or it's a disappointing season. So the expectations are the bar has been set at a height that has not been seen at Ole Miss in quite some time, and we'll see how they handle it. But from what I've seen and from what I've gathered inside the IPF, this roster construction is maybe even a little bit better than what they even anticipated before all this hype began. It's just simply they are stacked, no doubt about it. Doesn't matter what position you go to. They feel like they've got the bullets to be able to withstand a 16, 17 game season.
All right, the last few years, you look at the rise of Ole Miss, Georgia and Alabama still there as well. The losses last year at Alabama, I think it was 24-10. It was 7-6 at the half. The loss at Georgia, 52-17. Yeah. Has Ole Miss addressed the problems that led to those defeats as much as you think they need to? Because I know I don't want to be redundant in asking this question, but to beat those two teams, it takes a little bit extra.
Yeah, well, luckily they don't have Alabama on their schedule this year.
I know.
Maybe the first time in my lifetime, I can remember Alabama not being on it, and Georgia's at home and not at Georgia. But more importantly, Georgia really showed Ole Miss what they were lacking last year. You know, and that was quality offensive line depth. They had both their tackles out for the Georgia game, and then their right guard left. So after that first series, you had three of your five starters out, and they were lost. So they went out and picked up two offensive line starters for the top
Yeah.
Washington, the top offensive line in the country, and picked up two more really good transfers. North Carolina and Southern Miss, and they returned four out of their five starters. That they feel like they've got a couple guys, younger guys that have now grown and they feel like are ready. So they feel like they got 10, 11 guys there on the offensive line that are ready for war. Whereas last year they felt like they had five or six.
Yeah, and this is a great quote just sent in by one of our viewers, David Aquadro, the milkman over in Memphis. He distributes milk everywhere. A wise man will change his mind. A fool never will. A lot of people think coaches are so set in their ways they won't change. Have you seen a coach that is more maligned for being such a great offensive mind as Lane Kiffin is, but gets little to no credit for what he knows about defense? And now you've brought in, if I'm correct, 3 or 4 of the top 5 defensive linemen that were available in the portal to put on your defensive line. That'll wake you up in the morning. I mean, damn.
Yeah, and
Scary.
Jamarius Brown, a true freshman last year that at Moss Point, Mississippi, is a guy that they feel like has probably made the biggest jump out of anybody on the team that's returning from young guys. So they feel like that they got, we were talking about how many numbers 2 years ago versus last year. Remember, I said they felt they had 10 to 12 2 years ago. Last year, they were down in that 8 range. This year, they're back to that 12 to 13 range where they feel like they got quality players across that defensive line. They feel like at 3 deep, they're as good as anybody in the country on that defensive line. It's going to be a defensive line that is championship caliber. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, well, hey, you got to think about this. With every team out there, spring practice, it's great. You have the Grove Bowl, they call it at Ole Miss. Then you're gonna have to worry about the portal, who's gonna leave, or whatever. Yeah. And I'm reading some comments on here from Jeff Owens, one of our viewers, and it says the NIL is destroying NCAA football. The transfer portal needs to be controlled. You can play 1 year for a team, then go play somewhere else next, then somewhere else the next. Make some kind of rules, or they have to sit a few games or something if they transfer. Well, the deal is, in the real world, when you make a move, you always sign a contract. Are we going forward? Are we getting toward that? I listened to Lane Kiffin after practice one day last week when I was out hiking on the river. He talked about, a kid can go take your money in January, go through spring practice, and he's not happy where he is on the depth chart, and he can leave and go somewhere else. He goes, I don't like it. He goes, but that's what the system is. Lane Kiffin is really good at saying what he thinks in his mind, and I respect that. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, look, nobody's benefited more from the transfer portal or the NIL era more than Ole Miss. But having said that, Lane hates the system. Is he going to use it to his fullest? Yes, but he cannot stand it. He thinks it's bush league, to be honest. But
it is.
That's why there's no depth charts this spring. They don't line up with the first string with any practice. There's no injury reports. There's no grueling, in the sandboxes for players that are hurt to get ready. They are doing everything they can for players not to transfer out and for players that might feel like that they're running second, third string when they should be feeling that they want to run first string. They nobody has any idea. I mean, you'll have Jackson Dart playing with guys that might be third or fourth string. It's spring practice is really about now not having injuries. Obviously, that's everybody's goal, but also about keeping your players there. So it's a different era. It's not one that the NCAA has set. Remember, the court system in West Virginia is the one that said that
Yeah,
players could transfer multiple times. Actually, it's on hold right now. So there'll be I think the ruling comes out this summer. So we'll see what the future lies with that. No, you should not be able to just jump around from,
correct.
from December to spring to fall. That's not good for anybody. But the court systems, they rule the laws. So that's where we are, and that's the cards that have been dealt, and you just got to play with them.
Yeah, and look, they always talk about this argument. Well, coaches make all this money; they can do whatever they want. Well, if a coach leaves early in the middle of a contract, he's got to pay a buyout clause. So if all these players and these jackasses that are
school
pushing
ends
this,
up buying it though.
yeah,
Whatever
that's the
school he
point.
left to ends up paying that buyout clause.
Exactly.
But yes, you're
So,
right.
but it's
You're right.
passed on. It's passed on to the fans, and so these Pollyannas, these jackasses that are pushing this narrative that these athletes are these poor, picked upon, victims. They need to shove it where the sun don't shine, and we've got to start fighting back. And look, yeah, you can benefit from the portal, but as much as you can, you got to be careful about going, well, golly, this is great for us right at the moment, but long term. And Coach Lane Kiffin has talked about this as we talked on the Gateway Tire and Service Center. Proud to have him as a sponsor of our show. We go the distance for our communities and the businesses. And there for you, Gateway Tire and Service Center. Look for them all over. How can you build a culture and camaraderie and bonding with people that you don't trust? It's impossible, isn't it? I mean, it's never going to happen. So you've got guys you don't trust, and that's why you're not seeing teams after a loss. You got guys that go, "I'm out of here." You've got to have guys that are willing to close ranks. That's what the market's going to fix this, because you're going to ask your fans one too many times to support this crazy nonsense, and they're going to stop. You're going to have fans enter the portal, Yancey.
Yeah, you are, and I think we'll talk a little bit more, but creative ways that the state legislators are going to be able to change the NIL structure, are going to start allowing the schools to contribute money to the NIL. And that's what's next. It's already happening.
Wow.
It's happening here in the state of Mississippi. It's already passed one legislation, the Senate, and now it's going to pass for the floor. And if it passes the floor, that's when it really changes the game. So instead of the fans having to give all the money to the NIL, the schools will start contributing the money to the NIL, and the onus will not be on the fans anymore. And then what's going to happen after that next step is you're going to have facilities are going to be on the back burner. Facilities are going to start cracking. And then you're going to get to the point where they're going to finally go to what originally was supposed to happen with all of this when the Northwestern players had the lawsuit about making money, and that's sharing revenue. And that's the end. That's the end step. And that's where, this will all head to. The next step is the schools are going to start giving the money to the NIL, and it's going to get wild and crazy, and it's going to run a lot of schools broke. It's going to run them out of the Power 5 conferences the week.
Yeah.
And then after that, then the schools, there's going to start being problems with the schools being able to stay in the structure of being able to be a major power. And then it'll finally come to revenue sharing. And that's what's going to happen before it's all said and done.
Yeah, and very likely you're going to have regular students file class action lawsuits. Well, you had my picture on the front page of the local newspaper or on the web. You're using my likeness, okay? That one's coming. You can just watch. I've been seeing this for a couple of years. This all became law July 1st of 2021, NIL. Now it's legal. So what I think is going to happen is, you're right. You'll see the universities contributing to NIL. They'll just jack up the ticket prices even more, okay? Yep. And when you do the audit, you'll see X number of dollars from each ticket going toward the NIL fund. I've talked to coaches, you do too, anonymously. If a coach is the coach of a non-revenue sport, really, Olympic sport, whatever they want to call it, a lot of them are going to tell you in 2 or 3 years, half the sports that we have now, and we have 91 NCAA championships. College football playoff is a separate deal. That would be, it's not run by the NCAA, fortunately. Okay. But the coaches will tell you in 2 or 3 years, we might have half the sports that we currently have now. You're going to see a lot more club level sports. And also, just when we get to all these facilities, the Hebner Center at Florida, the Woltolt Center at Auburn, you spend all this money. When you get down to it, you can take them through your facilities and give them the campus tour, the conversation you're going to have with the athlete and their entourage, which can sometimes be 15 or 20 people. Hey, man, what are you giving me? I don't care about that damn facility over there. I got a shower in my dorm room or whatever. You know, you better watch out, folks. This is what I see happening. You know what Wayne Gretzky said in an interview? I don't know if it was Roy Firestone, who was a great interviewer, interviewed him one time, said, you're considered the greatest hockey player of all time, but you're damn sure not the biggest or the fastest, the strongest. Why are you so great? Gretzky looked at the interviewer and said, I don't go where the puck is. I go where I think the puck is going. You better be thinking ahead, man. You're going to have private equity and venture capital firms getting involved in college athletics. This is where we're going. Now, the fans, you better watch out, because the fans own college athletics. And all these bureaucrats, first off, forget about Congress and the Senate. They could screw up a 2-car funeral. They're incompetent. The only reason we hear about them on the news every night is because of how stupid they are. Okay? What we need, there's some of them that are trying to do some things. And I admire Tommy Tuberville for doing what he's doing. He's a coach for 41 years. He's like, we got to make some sense out of this. But Washington's not where it gets fixed. And the new head of the NCAA, Charlie Baker, was the governor in Massachusetts. What does he know about college football, for goodness sakes, Yancey?
Well,
I think we were just censored. Yancey, you there? Yeah.
Increasing the revenue for football for all of these schools to be able to pay for the.
Yeah. Yancey might want to try to read. Yeah, Yancey, are you there?
You lost you. Tune in, Yancey.
Yancey, back. Yeah, go ahead and reboot and try to come back on here, and we'll continue this conversation. But when you think about the money being spent on facilities, and they're great, they'll get the kid on campus, but before they leave, it's what Nick Saban did. And, Nick Saban's got an office, I think it's at field level at Bryant-Denny Stadium, that he's going to have this year. I wonder what his legacy is going to be. I just wonder how people, because he was so honest in what he said, and his wife Terry said, after all these players not coming to him after they lost to Michigan about becoming a better man, a better student, athlete, better defensive lineman, a better offensive lineman, it was all about the money. I understand, but if you're so caught up in money, you're going to have a harder time getting it. If you work the process and you work your ass off and stay committed, the money will come. And I think what Nick Saban and his wife said is, why are we doing this anymore? You can say what you want. Oh, I'm glad Saban's gone. Really? Because if you work out with people, if you're a biker or a runner or a swimmer, whatever kind of athlete you are, in business, in sales, you always want to get on the back wheel of the fastest and the best salesman on the floor. Don't hang around the malcontents and the whiners. By the way, you should have heard, Yancey, and the Duke broadcast in the last 15 minutes of that game against NC State. It was just Wendy and Doug Weiner. It was horrible, and people now are saying when that technical foul was called on Keats, the coach of NC State. It was Mike Krzyzewski calling in going, come on, you got to help my team out. Yancey, we got you back.
Yeah,
Hello, Gumby.
they could. NC State, that big boy was just too much for
Don't you
Duke.
love him?
I mean, he is those finger rolls that he makes is just unbelievable. I mean, he's just in his zone. But unfortunately, he's about to face someone that's just too tall, too big. That's gonna not only negate him, but get tilted there towards Purdue. But it's been a hell of a ride for him.
Well, I said it yesterday when Tommy Kane was on, our Wolfpack guy. Love him. He's fishing down at Lake Santee, South Carolina, with his brother bass fishing right now. I hope he's getting some big ones. But what you've got here with Zach Edey is Drago in the Rocky movie, and DJ Burns is Rocky. Think about that. I mean, he's a taller version of Charles Barkley. He's lovable. He's got a great basketball IQ. Now, Buddy Martin is sending me some stuff about NFL teams are showing interest in Mr. Burns, possibly as an offensive lineman, though his dream is to get to the NFL. He's got a bright future. And I know Rodney Orr is going to try to join us. He had an appointment. He was trying to make it work this morning. But Yancey, watching what's going on in sports, what's the most compelling story? Maybe we've already answered it. Most compelling story, though, is it how much people love this NC State run, or how much they dislike Zach Edey and Purdue? I mean, or as Franz Beard calls them, Perdon't. And the Big Ten with 16 teams got 24 bids to the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, you look, it's going to be a Purdue Connect. I bet. UConn showdown. It's there's that Purdue center is he's just so big, and he controls both ends of the floor. The only way that you can beat them is to get him in foul trouble.
Yeah. All right, Yancey, let's bring in our good man, good friend, Rodney Orr. Tider Insider, May Veterinary Clinic, Tider Insider Report, Tuscaloosa and Northport, open every day. Sundays, drop off, pick up only 3 to 5 p.m. You got an outdoor cement pond. That's for swimming, folks. And connecting cat condos. If you got a bunch of cats in your house, and we all watch the news, sometimes you see the old lady at the end of the street that you never knocked on her door for trick or treat. They found her with 35 cats in the house. Well, they could all go to Camp May and the connecting cat condos. Rodney Orr, Bigger Than Bama. You've written a book. It's a great book. And for only $48 a year, people can follow you as a subscriber to Tider Insider. We've been talking, as we always do here on SEC Sideline Sports Network and SECU, college football, college basketball, and all. And I was making a comment that how are Alabama people feeling about Nick Saban? Because he's so honest, what him and his wife said about his commitment to the program and football. And now, look, we all want to get paid. That's why we work. But he said, if you're not developing these young men and to being great men, great fathers, great leaders, great students, what are we doing this for? I hope people give him the respect that he's earned.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone probably pretty much agrees with that. I mean, there hasn't been a lot of discussion necessarily about that on Tider Insider right now.
Good.
But yeah, I mean, I think everyone certainly. I think that's what coaches are in it for. I think that's what most coaches are in it for. Not only that, but I mean, obviously there are a lot of reasons, but that's the bottom line. I mean, how do you affect people? Saban's talked about that. That's been his message ever since he's been here. Is affecting people in a positive way. And the crazy thing is there's a lot of different ways to do that. He has his ways and his methods. And then now we're seeing with the new coach here, Kalen DeBoer, he's already making an impact, I think, on a lot of these players, and he has a different approach. So I think that's the way most coaches go about it, but they just do it in their own way.
Yeah. And look, spring practice is underway. I was on Buddy Martin's show last night, and we're all part of this SEC Sideline Sports Network and SECU. And he said, Rob, what's going on around the SEC? What are you hearing? And I said, well, Rodney Orr talks about Alabama on our show, and he'll be on with us tomorrow morning, which he is now, and as is Yancey Porter from Rebel Yell Hotline. And I said, well, Alabama, they lost 31 guys, but a lot of those guys were going to be gone anyway, but they've still got a ton of talent. And I said, there's new coaches there, but I don't know if they'll be as good as they were in Saban's best years right off the bat with Kalen DeBoer, but they're Alabama, and a lot is expected of them. So I wouldn't get all giddy thinking they're not going to be, an 11, 12 win contender again. Agree or disagree?
You talking about specifically for this year?
Well, yeah, in the next few years. This coming year might be tough because of a new coach. It's a learning curve.
It's a transition. There's a transition, and generally transitions. They don't always go smoothly. That first year, you have a hiccup or two that along the way, and but you never know too. We've seen Fred Akers when he took over at Texas in 1977. They went 11-0. Of course, now they were coming off a bad season of Del Roy's last year. Of course, that's many, many years ago, obviously. Yeah. But then Earl Bruce stepped in for Woody Hayes and went 11-0 and went into the Rose Bowl when they lost that game to USC. But I mean, there are examples of guys coming in and turning things around, or continuing to have that kind of success. But who knows? I mean, just kind of have to see. But no, I mean, I think Kalen DeBoer's obviously got a track record that certainly, if you're an Alabama fan, would give you some confidence. He's won a lot of games, and last year, what they achieved in 2 years at Washington when they went 25-3 after taking over a program that was 4-8 the year before they got there. Just the things that they did, that they had a lot of success. Now, this is going to be a different animal. I mean, this is really much more competitive here in the SEC, as you know. Every week is it's a battle. It's a battle. Even the teams that you would say, okay, are on the lower end or lower half of the SEC, they're a threat to beat any other team, on any given Saturday. So, yeah, it's going to be a lot more competitive, obviously, than what they're accustomed to, I believe. But at the same time, no, I mean, I think there's a lot of confidence here that, Alabama's hired a great coach that can, continue the tradition.
Yeah, I think the SEC schedule, you're right about the grind. If you run a 5-mile run 4 or 5 times a week, and it's the same run, and it's a flat course with no hills, that's great. But if you do 3 or 4 runs a week with a search and destroy where you look for every hill you can find on the run, you mix it up. Same thing as the SEC schedule, where, every week you've got to play typically a full 60, 4 quarters. And in a lot of these leagues around the country, in the Big Ten, the juggernauts like Michigan and Ohio State, you can get away with a quarter and a half or maybe 2 quarters. And then the 3rd and 4th quarter, you're on autopilot. That is the difference. I mean, is that a fair picture?
Yeah.
Accurate? Okay. Yeah.
I think it is, and I think, you say the same thing about the Pac-12, but again, I think too that, Kalen DeBoer, there's some people that, I've heard Alabama fans. I mean, I get text messages, I get phone calls, just like you guys do, from fans or people that are members of Tighter Inside or whatever they are. And they express, oh, well, this guy, he can't do this or this, because he doesn't really understand the SEC. Yeah. It's funny. I had one guy tell me he was really complaining about Alabama should have hired Lane Kiffin. They should have hired Sark. They should have hired Lanning. And I reminded the guy that Kalen DeBoer is 5-0 against Dan Lanning and Sark combined, 3-0 against Lanning, 2-0 against Sark. I think he's beaten Lincoln Riley every time he's gone against him as well. But I reminded him of that, and he said, well, 5-0, that really doesn't matter. That he, so what? I don't buy into that. And I said, well, would you buy into it if he was 0-5 against those guys? Yeah. And that would be, well, he's 0-5 against those guys. No, I mean, I think he's a great coach, man. I mean, look what he did last year. He's beat Sark the last 2 years, a Texas team that was more talented in both years. He beat them in the, in that playoff game this past year. Texas was a more talented team. I mean, they were loaded across the front defensively. So anyway, with all that said, yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of confidence that Kalen DeBoer is very capable of doing this job.
Yancey.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing for Alabama, in my eyes, they get their offensive tackle back there. He's gone and he comes back. Speaking of the craziness of the NIL era, right? The transfer portal era. But it's, what did they do with Jalen Milroe? This, make no bones about it. The new coach there at Alabama, and I've watched a lot of film last night, just boredom. Watched did the YouTube and did watched it highlights and for the 23 season, and they love throwing that ball around. And what makes their offense so special is the ability to get the ball out of your hands quickly and make reads, and that's really what is the weakness for Jalen Milroe. And what kind of adjustments will the Alabama offense make under his system if they do continue to go with Jalen Milroe? I think that's really the story in my eyes. Someone looking from it afar that's not involved, that's not covering Alabama. That's the question I have in my mind right now with the 24 season for the Crimson Tide.
Well, let me say this real quick. I think that's a great point. Number one. Number two is, I would say when I look at Kalen DeBoer, I look at his history, the things he's done. He's had teams that ran the ball more. He's had quarterbacks that played with different styles, which is good. Yeah. I would kind of compare him to Lane Kiffin in that way. And what I mean by that is Lane Kiffin took Blake Sims over here. Right. A guy who was a great athlete. I mean, he could play any position. I mean, he could have played running back. He did play running back here for a while. They worked him at safety some. They worked him as a slot receiver. Okay, so he takes Blake Sims, and you saw what he did in 2014. I mean, throws for 3,400 yards and 28 TDs. Okay, one of the best passing seasons at that point in Alabama history. So I say all that to say this, that of course, it helped that he had Amari Cooper. But I say all that to say I think DeBoer will, assuming Milroe is the quarterback and remains the quarterback, I think he would devise something that would be, comfortable with him. He's not going to probably be able to do what Penix did in those areas you're talking about, because maybe he does get better at that. But, Penix did it at a really high level. So, but again, I think when you look at Milroe, his athleticism, he's one of the most athletic guys in the country. So we'll see. But now look, let me say this too about the scrimmage they had last week. Ty Simpson's really, really good. Ty Simpson, I'm not saying he's going to unseat Milroe. That's not the point of this. But he's a talented kid, man. He had a great scrimmage. I've got 3 or 4 people that were there that said, they thought he looked the best, of all the quarterbacks. And Austin Mack, the transfer, showed some really incredible potential as well. Now he's only 17 years old, was at Washington last year. So again, just keep that in mind when you're talking about the quarterbacks.
Well, that's a great point you make. I was wondering if he was going to be like a Lane Kiffin, where he will kind of alter his offense around the skill set of his personnel and mainly that quarterback, as you mentioned. I did not know enough history about him. I just watched the 23 highlights for Washington last night and was just kind of just taking notes about, just looking at what maybe to expect there at Alabama. And that's what I noticed. So that's a great point. If he will mold that talent around his scheme, then he can make it work. But as you said, I've heard too from the camp. You know better than me that Ty's really taking that next step this year, and it's good. But I think really just from a curiosity standpoint, from afar, someone like me in the media that's not there over there at Alabama, it's just what's going to happen there at that quarterback position. And if he does, return with Jalen, what does he alter his system, as you just said, like a Kiffin does, and really like Saban did, right? I mean, they were throwing the rock all over the field once Lane Kiffin got there, and they continued to do that after Lane left. And then last year they went back to that old school Alabama Nick Saban offense. So Saban he showed that he will diversify too, and so that's what makes great coaches elite, right?
That's right. Yeah, no doubt. Agree with you.
It's just adaptability and also, finding the best assistant coaches and knowing where they are all around the country. And I think people get caught up in a coach of what they did, where they were. And I like the fact that Kalen DeBoer has been a head coach longer than Dan Lanning. Doesn't mean Dan Lanning is not good, but Dan Lanning is a young coach. He's been a head coach for 2 or 3 years now.
Yeah.
That's just not that long. Do you want to bring somebody into a place like any of these SEC infernos? You pick yours. There's going to be just tremendous pressure, but the pressure at Alabama is even more intense. A couple of more minutes before we wrap up, Rodney. And I know, Gary will be on with us this week talking more about Alabama basketball. You primarily focus on football, but this is a big deal to be in the Final Four, which means the question is going to be asked is, and it's a silly one, is Alabama going to, could they become a basketball school? Look, the way it is, basketball, I heard Nate Oates was making a comment like, hey, man, I'm a huge football fan. I'd go to Saban's meetings. I quote him all the time. I mean, they're married to each other. I mean, it's the same university. And we talked about this last night. There's only one school all time. And Franz Beard asked the question, and I guessed it right, but I thought only one school in the country in history that's top 10 all times in wins in college football and basketball, and that's Notre Dame. Okay? So it's very hard to do it, but we all know that football makes the grass grow for all the other sports. It's pretty cool, though, being in the Final Four, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that's been long awaited around here. They've had some really good teams that, frankly, many people felt like should have been Final Four type teams in the past, and they've struggled to get past the Sweet 16 forever. Obviously Godfrey did it in 2004. And now they're in the Final Four. So this is only 2 times that this program's been beyond the Sweet 16. But yes, I think Alabama fans are obviously really excited about it. Now I don't know, to be honest with you, they'll have to play at even another level to have a chance against UConn. I mean, this is a real dynamo team, right? I mean, they're beating everybody by double digits. Would they go on a 30-0 run? One of the more optimistic fans on my board said the other day, if you take that 30-0 run out, Illinois was you
that.
Take that 30-0 run out, Okay. I mean, come on, man. But anyway,
love it.
With that said, I think they're going to have to play at another level. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I love the way you giggled whenever Rob said, "Will Alabama become a basketball school?"
Yeah,
and you just giggled. The answer is resounding no.
Yeah,
I mean, you can now, basketball can be good at these schools in the South, but football is the king. When they start making basketball arenas 90 and 100,000 seats, then you'll have an argument.
Rob, I got to ask you this now. What is the pain level at Auburn right now with Alabama making the Final Four, and Auburn is basically, has owned basketball in that state for the last 8-10 years and has really become a national, powerhouse in basketball. And then Alabama gets to make it, and Auburn still, is not there right now. Is it kind of a double whammy?
Not really. I mean, not me, because I'm comfortable in being an Auburn grad and loving Auburn and all. And I've got a ton of Bama friends, and it's fun for them. And I'm just not one of these people that sits on my ass on a Saturday waiting to see the scores come across the screen so that I can cheer when one of my rivals is down. So I'm happy for them. And, hell, I've remarried to Evolve for Life, and Mallory is an Alabama grad. So, shit, what am I supposed to do? And my best friend from childhood, we're 2 days apart. He's an Alabama grad. So, what am I supposed to do? And, here's the thing. Auburn's that loss, give Yale the credit. I don't care about the officiating. Chad Baker, Mazar. You know what? You still should have won the game. You're up by 10 with 7 minutes. Hit your free throws. Don't turn the ball over. I think these two schools, Rodney, you would agree, in-state pushed each other, because it's not like the Auburn people live on one side of the street and the Alabama people on the other. Let's be honest, they're all sleeping together. I mean, they're husbands and wives, and they're all together. And just like Mississippi State and Ole Miss, that's what makes it so much fun. So to answer your question more accurately, it's going to give Auburn a lot of motivation going into next basketball season. But they got to get football fixed. They got to get baseball going. But
there's that old football word again, isn't it?
Yeah, when you've got that check, one's doing well, people will say, well, if Bama wasn't rolling and Auburn had that loss, you wouldn't be hearing anything. But with Bama rolling, yeah, a lot of Auburn fans, they're probably freaking out right now. I'm not, because I got confidence in Auburn, and I know they'll fix it eventually. Hey, sooner or later, even a blind hog finds an acorn, and they'll get there. So isn't that right, Rodney?
Listen, I still remember when Pat Dye took over, right? I mean, I didn't know a lot about Pat Dye at the time. Obviously, he'd been a former Bryan assistant, but that first game when they played Alabama in the 3-15 game in 1981, you could tell where that program was going, because he was a different kind of coach. But no, I think, first of all, let me say this too. And you guys know this, but people overlook this. The importance of having a top-notch AD, athletic director, is so important. I mean, it's so important. And I think Greg Byrne, the job that he's done here at Alabama, I know there's people that, everybody wants somebody else all the time. But he has done a fabulous job. I mean, this guy's done an incredible job of hiring. And let me say this too. Now, he was tasked with one of the most difficult jobs, I think, of having to replace or having to hire the guy after Nick Saban. And I mean, he was prepared, he was ready, and he had his guy in focus, and he did an incredible job. So I think having the right AD is extremely important.
Yeah, it is, because I mean, the AD is like a traffic cop. He can cause things to go smoothly or to be chaos with the wrong hires, and he's good about keeping them secret. So I mean, look, unfortunately we run out of time, but great talk. Love it. We had Mitch Davis on earlier. Rodney Orr, Tighter Insider, folks. Be a subscriber, only $48 a year. Yancey Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline, Monday nights, 6 p.m. These two guys, true grit journalists, or as they call each other, OGs, the original guys that have been doing this a long time, old enough to remember what a typewriter is. A lot of these young kids, you tell them about a typewriter, what are they going to say? I'll plead the Fifth Amendment. I mean, that's kind of where it goes. But closing comment, Rodney, and then closing comment, and let them know how they can follow you at Yancey. And we'll say goodbye, folks, because most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. Go out and help other people. The more you get, the more opportunities you have to help other people. Don't ever forget that. Those are wise words from my parents. I hear it every day. But Rodney, let them know.
Yeah. Well, it's TighterInsider.com. It's only $48 a year, and you can get instant access with your credit card, or if you prefer, there is an address there to send a check. It gives you all our premium information, but also our All Sports Forum, which is our community of Alabama fans there on Tighter Insider. And our book, Bigger Than Bama, 1995. You can find it on RodneyOrr.com or on Amazon.
All right. Thank you so much. And Yancey, give them the Rebel Yell.
Yeah, it's just really easy. Just at Yancey Porter anywhere on social media, and jump on your Super Talk or WHBQ station to listen to Rebel Yell on Mondays from 6 to 7.
Eternal optimism, man. It always works. Positive in, positive out. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Thanks for watching.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shop's health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought-after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal. And the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am Ari Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.